Here's a story, though, that we touched upon yesterday with Kelly J. Keane, and it was a story of a trans pride activist who told a crowd to punch TERFs in the effing face. That's Sarah Jane Baker, who calls himself a trans activist who campaigns on behalf of trans prisoners. Released from prison 3 years ago after serving 30 years for the kidnapping and attempted murder of a stepmother's brother and for attempting to kill another prisoner while incarcerated. At the march on Saturday, you might have seen the video yesterday, Baker told a cheering crowd, I was going to come here and be really fluffy, be really nice and be really lovely and queer and gay and laugh, but then said, I'm afraid not. Let's have a look.
I was gonna come here and be really fluffy and be really nice and say, yeah, be really lovely and queer and gay. No, if you see a TERF, punch him in the face.
Charming. Let's talk to Mike Neville, former Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector, because we understand from people who have complained about this particular statement that the Metropolitan Police are not going to do anything about it. They're not going to recall or in any way even have a conversation with this Sarah Jane Baker carrier. So, Mike, a very good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mike. It's quite incredible, isn't it?
Isn't it just? I mean, I'm pretty sure that if I went out into the street and started saying you should punch people in the face, that would be an incitement of violence, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, and offences under the Public Order Act. The acting sergeant who's quoted, who's wrote this off, he seems to be misunderstanding the legislation, saying, oh, this isn't a hate crime because a TERF isn't a protected characteristic. It's utter nonsense, because it's an offence to incite violence against anyone. And we have the bizarre situation here where literally we have a man who's got 30 years inside prison for the most violent crimes. You know, as you read out, kidnap, attempting to murder another prisoner. So you've got somebody of that previous conviction standing on a public stage and saying that groups of people, women should be punched in the face.
Yeah.
And the police saying it's not a crime. It's just beyond belief.
It really is. According to an email that's been received by somebody who complained to the police, they say a trans-exclusionary radical feminism, a TERF, is not a hate crime. A TERF is not a protected characteristic under legislation. A TERF would be a person's opinion, whether this opinion is viewed as discriminatory in itself or not. The female is suggesting inciting members of the crowd to punch individuals who act on this belief. This is not targeted at an individual. This is in a hypothetical situation, it says. The crowd that were being spoken to were there for Pride Day in London and were there for the purposes of expressing their support for LGBTQ plus members. I believe the most appropriate offence may potentially be a POS5. And I do not believe that this is proportionate to progress any further. We need to take into account Article 10 of the ECHR, freedom of expression. Mike, I'm not sure what a POS5 is, are you?
It's Public Order Act Section 5, which is the lowest form of threatening behaviour, but it is far more than that. That's the sort of offence you get charged with in the chip shop on a Friday night after too many lagers. It is not somebody who is standing on a stage and bellowing that through a microphone.
Right.
And violence against women and girls is dreadful, however it manifests itself. And you have Labour MPs who will be the most committed people to anti-domestic violence, somehow trying to excuse this behaviour and excuse the behaviour of a convicted, violent offender who was so violent that who spends 30 years in prison these days. You've got to do serious stuff to get a month in prison. Now, mine 30 years.
I know. And surely to heavens, if you are going to examine whether something is a public order problem or is likely to incite people, you have to take into account the person saying it, don't you? You know, if it's a 15-year-old boy who doesn't know much about anything, that's different to it being a convicted violent criminal, surely.
It absolutely it makes a difference, and it's the way that acting police sergeant has written this off within minutes. Basically, there's no let's have at least a rank of inspector justifying this decision.
Incredible.
But I think what it shows again, Mike, is that the public will perceive that the police are not on their side. And it's this ebbing away of trust and confidence that if you're a law-abiding citizen, just goes about your business, thinks that a man is a man and a woman is a woman, you're liable to be, you know, not get a good service.
Yeah.
Or if you do commit some infraction like driving at 33 in a 30, you'll be fine. But if you stand on a public stage and shout out about punching whole groups of women in the face, then that's somehow not a crime. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. Also, they talk about the individual officer talks about Article 10 of the ECHR, European Convention on Human Rights, freedom of expression. Presumably, I can use that the next time the police come round to my door because I might have tweeted something that they don't like, or might have said, you know, well, of course, you know, everybody knows a woman can't have a penis.
Yeah, again, you're quoting, you know, quoting the, you know, European Convention on Human Rights. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know, it is not free. You could say it's freedom of expression to shout fire in a crowded theatre.
Yeah.
It is not your freedom of speech to be able to do that. And you can't stand on stages and say, punch all white people in the face, punch all Asian people in the face. It's completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
And
his argument is that turfs are not a protected characteristic.
Well, that's right, and he's trying to say so it doesn't make it a hate crime. But it doesn't have to be a hate crime. It is a standard crime of threatening words and behaviour. He's inciting and encouraging violence, and that is a criminal offence for which he can be arrested for.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes no sense to me at all, Mike. Thank you very much indeed.